The first time I heard this story was in a dimly lit room at the back of a Catholic bookstore in Venice. The man telling it kept his voice low, as if the very walls might be listening. His eyes constantly swept the room, checking whether anyone else had slipped in. He was not a priest, but he knew the corridors of the Vatican better than many who wore the sacred habit. He had worked for decades as a conservator of ancient manuscripts in the Apostolic Library of the Vatican, until one day he discovered something he should never have found. What follows is the most faithful account possible of what I heard that night, combined with the discoveries I made in the years that followed, seeking to confirm every detail through sources who preferred to remain anonymous. In the spring of 1956, Francis Pius, a young novice assigned to assist Father Pius at St. John Rotondo, noticed something unusual. For 3 nights in a row, the stigmatized saint could not be found in his cell during the darkest hours before dawn. Intrigued and worried, Francis decided to keep watch. On the 4th night, shortly after 2 in the morning, he saw the old friar silently leave the monastery and head into the deepest part of the nearby wood. He followed at a safe distance, fearing discovery. What he witnessed, according to his personal diary, a document that only came to light in 2012 after his nephew's death in Bari, was Father Pius kneeling in a small clearing, his wounded, hands raised to the starry sky, speaking with something or someone Francis could not see. The leaves trembled, even though there was no wind. A faint bluish-white light seemed to envelop the friar like a cocoon of soft luminescence as he spoke, and furiously wrote in a small brown-covered notebook. "It was as if he were taking dictation from the heavens themselves," wrote Francis. His hands moved as if alive, and he wept. "I will never forget the sound of that weeping. It was not pain, but deep, terrible understanding. For 7 nights the same ritual repeated. On the 8th morning, Father Pius summoned Francis to his cell. With eyes bloodshot from exhaustion and an expression that mixed reverence with terror, he handed the young man a red waxed sealed envelope. "Take this to the Holy Father, only to him, into his own hands. What is written here must not fall into other hands. It is about the time that is coming, the return of the one who promised to come back. There are details that would change everything." Francis set out the same day for Rome on a journey that should have been simple, but became an odyssey of subtle persecutions and disturbing coincidences. 3 times his train suffered inexplicable delays. Twice he saw the same grey-coated man watching him at stations. In Rome, staying at a small guest house recommended by Father Pius himself, he found his room turned upside down, though nothing had been stolen. The Vatican of that era, under Pope Pius XIII, was a place of whispers and tension. The Cold War was at its height, and the Church balanced between combating Soviet atheism and maintaining political neutrality. When Francis finally secured an audience, it was not with the Pope, but with Monsignor John Montini, the future Pope Paul VI, then substitute Secretary of State. Montini received the envelope, broke the seal, and read its contents in Francis's presence. According to the novice's diary, the prelate's face changed immediately and terrifyingly. Color drained from his face like water from a broken vessel. His hands trembled so violently that the papers rustled like dry autumn leaves. He muttered words I could not understand, perhaps in ancient Latin, and then looked at me as if I were a ghost. What happened next is where the story turns even darker. Francis was invited to wait in an antechamber. Hours passed. When the door finally opened, it was not Montini who called him, but a priest he had never seen before, accompanied by 2 men in dark suits with no religious insignia. "The Holy Father thanks you for your dedication," said the unknown priest. "Your mission is complete. You will now return to St. John Rotondo and inform Father Pius that his message has been received. Nothing more." Francis protested, insisting that Father Pius had asked for a response directly from the Pope himself. The suited men stepped forward, and the priest smiled in a manner the novice described as completely devoid of joy or kindness. "My son," he said, "there are things in the Church greater than any of us. There is knowledge not meant for ordinary men. You have performed a valuable service, but your part in this ends now." When Francis returned to the monastery, Father Pius was waiting in the empty chapel, kneeling before the altar, his stigmata bleeding more intensely than usual. Without turning, as if he could see through his back, he spoke in a broken voice. "They burned them, didn't they?" The novice, startled, said he did not know the fate of the writings. Father Pius finally turned, his eyes red from so much weeping. "I saw them in the flames. Last night I awoke smelling my own writings, burning. They believe they can hide the truth from the world, but the truth does not belong to them. What I saw and wrote will come to light by other means." In the months that followed, Father Pius entered a period of silence deeper than his usual. His masses grew longer, his confessions more intense. In 1957, reports began to circulate that the friar was under investigation by the Church itself, accused of fanaticism and of leading the faithful into superstitious beliefs. He was forbidden to celebrate public masses for a time, and his access to visitors was severely restricted. What few know is that during that same period, a small group of theologians and scientists was convened by the Vatican for a series of secret meetings. Among them were Dr. Ernest Bazzano, an Italian physicist with an interest in paranormal phenomena, and Father Sebastian Michaels, a linguist specializing in Aramaic and ancient Semitic languages. Both died under strange circumstances in the next 10 years, Bazzano in an alleged car accident in the Alps, and Michaels from an unidentified tropical fever during a mission in the Congo. A third member of that group, whose identity I only discovered in 2019 through a partially declassified archive, was Major Robert Wilson, an American officer linked to a shadowy department of the newly formed NASA. What connected these three disparate figures? According to my Vatican source, they were tasked with verifying the scientific, theological, and astronomical credentials of Father Pius's manuscript. And here, dear reader, I must pause this narrative that unwinds like a dark thread through our Church's recent history. I have spent years gathering these fragments of truth, risking much to bring them to light. If you wish to continue receiving revelations like these, discoveries that challenge the official history and expose secrets kept in the shadows, consider subscribing for more accounts of this nature. The truth, however unsettling, deserves to be known by those brave enough to face it. What exactly did Father Pius's manuscript contain? No complete copy has survived, or so they would have us believe. Yet fragments of its content have leaked over the years, like water through a dam beginning to crack. In 1978, a Spanish Jesuit priest, Alphonse Ruiz, published an obscure treatise on Marian apparitions containing an intriguing footnote. It cited an Italian contemplative text describing Christ's return, not as a spiritual or metaphorical event, but as linked to a specific astronomical phenomenon, the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn in a configuration that would occur only in 2028. Ruiz died 2 weeks after publication, officially of a heart attack. All copies of his book were purchased by a single anonymous buyer in the following weeks. I managed to find one in 2015, hidden in a private collection in Marseille. More significant was the discovery in 2001 by Father Thomas Merin, a Dominican archaeologist working near the Sea of Galilee. Among first-century artifacts, he found a fragment of papyrus containing a text in Aramaic that appeared to be part of an unrecorded discourse of Jesus. Radiocarbon dating confirmed its authenticity. Its full translation was never published, But the initial summary mentioned return through the door of the stars and signs in the ringed giant when time is complete. The Vatican immediately took control of the find, and Merrin was transferred to a mission in Alaska. The fragment vanished from official records. Curiously, this happened just months before the attack on the Twin Towers, when the world's attention was focused elsewhere. In 2005, Vatican Observatory astronomer Emil Constantine began an independent study on anomalies in Saturn's rings. His personal notes, shared with a close colleague, mentioned unexplained gravitational disturbances and periodic shadows that do not match any known moon. He requested access to restricted Vatican library files on celestial phenomena and eschatological prophecy. Access was denied. 3 months later, he resigned and disappeared from public life. His Rome apartment was found empty, with none of his personal or professional belongings. Italian police ruled it a voluntary disappearance, despite his family's protests. A pattern began to emerge. Anyone who came close to linking Father Pius's lost manuscript, astronomical phenomena around Saturn, and prophecies of the Second Coming faced immediate severe consequences. In 2010, an even more disturbing event occurred. An elderly nun at a convent near St. John Rotondo, Sister Lucy Ferrato, who had served as Father Pius's assistant in his final years, began experiencing what she called continuous visions. For weeks, she awoke at 3:33 a.m., speaking in unknown tongues and drawing complex symbols resembling astronomical diagrams. A young local priest, fascinated by the drawings, began cataloging them. He sent copies to an astrophysicist friend at the University of Bologna who replied with a troubling letter stating that the symbols appeared to map precise coordinates in a specific sector of Saturn's rings. Details no current instruments should know. The letter was intercepted. The priest was reassigned to a mission in Brazil within 48 hours. Sister Lucy was placed in a church-run rest home with no outside visitors allowed. The astrophysicist publicly denied ever receiving or sending any correspondence, although 3 independent witnesses confirmed seeing him discuss the diagrams animatedly in the university cafeteria. In 2013, a NASA team announced the discovery of a structural anomaly in a specific region of Saturn's B ring, the same region indicated in Sister Lucy's drawings. The peer-reviewed paper was abruptly withdrawn due to methodological errors, extremely unusual for a study that had passed peer review. Meanwhile, among devoted followers of Father Pius, stories persisted. Many reported vivid dreams of the stigmatized saint pointing at the night sky. Others described pilgrimages to his shrine, where they felt compelled to gaze in a particular direction in the heavens, always at the same region where Saturn would be visible that season. One remarkable case occurred in 2017. A group of pilgrims from different countries who'd never met before independently reported the same dream the night after visiting Father Pius's tomb. In the dream, the saint showed them a burned manuscript that regenerated from its ashes, and a voice spoke in various languages. 2028. The door will open, and he will return via the path of the stars. As he departed, the Church quickly attributed the phenomenon to collective suggestion and religious hysteria. But a group of independent researchers began investigating patterns in apparitions and synchronicities related to the stigmatized friar. They found that since 1999, exactly 30 years after Father Pius's death, there had been a statistically significant increase in such experiences, following cycles corresponding to certain positions of Saturn in its orbit. In 2020, during the global pandemic when the world was distracted by other crises, 2 events went almost unnoticed. First, the Vatican Observatory entered an unprecedented collaboration with multiple space agencies for a comprehensive long-term Study of Saturn. Second, a new high-security wing was established in the Apostolic Library of the Vatican, officially for preservation of sensitive documents related to the faith. Internal sources reported that during construction, several relics and documents were transferred under extraordinary security, including a small silver box sealed with the personal coat of arms of Pope St. Paul VI, the same John Montini who had received Francis's envelope decades before. In 2022, an even more striking leak reached my hands. A technician hired to maintain the new climate control systems in the secret library clandestinely photographed a partially burned page undergoing restoration in a specialized lab. The image was low quality, but clear enough for experts to confirm. The handwriting matched that of Father Pius. The visible text mentioned the watchers waiting beyond Saturn and the veil between worlds that will become translucent when time is fulfilled. The technician disappeared 3 days after, sending me the image. His family was told he had been relocated under a witness protection program related to an alleged organized crime case. No record of such an investigation exists in Italian police databases. In January 2023, astronomers at various independent observatories recorded an unexplained phenomenon in Saturn's rings, perfect geometric ripples moving against the natural particle flow. The event lasted 33 minutes and stopped abruptly. Curiously, none of the major international telescopes or observation satellites recorded it. All were coincidentally offline for scheduled maintenance during that exact window. 3 months later, a small group of linguists and cryptographers was secretly summoned by the Vatican to analyze a collection of ancient texts, including Father Merin's papyrus fragment. One participant, Dr. Sophia Levant, contacted me after returning from the Vatican, visibly shaken. She said she had discovered linguistic patterns suggesting certain biblical passages, particularly in Ezekiel, Daniel, and Revelation, were precise instructions for interpreting astronomical events as signals. "We are not talking about astrology or mysticism," she wrote in her final email. "We are talking about a communication system encoded within observable celestial phenomena established millennia ago, and something is poised to be transmitted through this system." Her correspondence ceased abruptly. When I attempted to reach her again, I received an automatic reply stating she had departed on a long-term sabbatical retreat and could not be contacted. In August 2023, the Pope made an unannounced visit to the Vatican Observatory, staying more than 6 hours in closed meetings. The following week, he issued a document on spiritual preparation for transformative events in the history of salvation, emphasizing that the faithful should be ready to understand the second coming in terms that transcend our traditional comprehension. The document cryptically referenced Father Pius, noting that certain faithful servants received glimpses of the divine plan that, in their time, could not be fully understood, but which science and faith together now begin to illuminate. In December of that year, an international team of astronomers reported discovering gravitational anomalies beyond Saturn, suggesting a force or object undetectable by conventional observation methods. The announcement was quickly followed by retractions and accusations of calculation errors. 3 leading scientists involved resigned in the following weeks, citing personal reasons. And so we arrive at the present, where more pieces of this cosmic and spiritual puzzle continue to emerge. What did Father Pius truly see and write during those nights in 1956? Why did the Vatican take such extreme measures to suppress this information? What is the real nature of the connection between Saturn, the prophecies of the Second Coming, and the celestial events foretold for 2028? As that date approaches, more people report similar dreams and visions, reports of synchronicities linked to Father Pius surge. Observatories worldwide, both official and amateur, register increasing anomalies in Saturn's rings, patterns that defy known physics. Father Pius's burned manuscript may have been destroyed physically, but its content seems to leak into the world by other means: collective dreams, improbable coincidences, accidental scientific discoveries, and synchronized revelations occurring simultaneously across the globe. And here is the most disturbing element of all. Reliable Vatican sources confirm a new, ultra-advanced observatory is being built in secret, focused solely on monitoring Saturn. At the same time, teams of theologians, linguists, and scientists labor day and night to decipher ancient texts and correlate them with recent astronomical observations. Time is running out. If Father Pius's prophecies are correct, something monumental will occur in 2028, something that will redefine not only religion and faith, but the very nature of reality, consciousness, and humanity's place in the cosmos. Religious and scientific authorities appear to be preparing for an event of unprecedented magnitude, while simultaneously trying to control the narrative and prevent premature panic or social upheaval. The truth is emerging gradually, like water finding its way through cracks in a dam, inevitable and unstoppable. And you, dear reader, who have followed this narrative to its end, let me ask the question that has haunted me throughout this investigation. If we knew for certain that a cosmic and spiritual transformation would occur in 2028, how would that change the way we live in the years we have left? And more importantly, could this suppressed knowledge of the true nature of the Second Coming be why so many efforts were made to keep Father Pius's manuscript from the world's eyes? As Saturn's rings continue their mysterious movements, and time inexorably marches toward the prophesied date, each of us must decide how to process these revelations. Once seen, the truth cannot be unseen. And the story that began with a humble, stigmatized friar writing by starlight in 1956 may be reaching its cosmic climax before our very eyes.